don't know that. Just saying. This will take.
Yeah, Sherry said she sent me one. Sherry said she sent me one too. I didn't look at my
Should
phone.
be more open and communicative.
Should be checking my cell phone more often.
You should. While you're at work. You're on Facebook all day at work. What's the difference between that and your cell phone?
Not me.
Yeah.
All
Swear to
right.
God, not me.
We've got 6:30.
Right.
We'll go ahead and call our budget meeting to order. So, I think, Ryan, you explained that we can try to focus on.
Well, yeah, and talking to Jay earlier today, I think the best thing to do is concentrate on the revenues tonight.
Can you speak a little bit louder?
Sorry, there's no.
Thank you.
And speaking to Jay earlier today,
No, you can just talk loud.
yeah, we'll concentrate on the revenues. So, Jay, do you want to?
Well, first, let's pick up. Can we have an estimate time where we all agree on when we're going to close the meeting, or let's see?
Well, revenue won't take that long, but it's whenever discussions are over.
Okay, great. And we're
Yeah, nowhere to go. It's just work sessions. You can go whenever you
Oh,
want.
good. I just want to make sure everybody's
Expectations
expectations.
will be 45 lines.
Just doing revenue tonight.
Yep.
Okay, great. Okay.
So does anybody see any numbers in the revenue line items that look out of whack
Well,
before we tackle the most obvious one in the room, which is real estate tax?
yeah, well, I probably just have questions, like, for the estimated real estate, would that anticipate the full build-out on all the projects and home settled and everything like that?
The real estate taxes that are coming in,
Right.
it's based upon the assessment values from Prince William County and the taxation that they set us, based upon all the property that's currently built in the town.
No, I understand that, but I'm just saying, do we
So if you
anticipate,
understand that, then the answer is no to your question.
so the houses that are going to be selling or settling
They're not included.
will not be included, but yet, do we anticipate the,
What houses?
I mean, like Sherwood, I mean,
They're
Yeah,
all settled.
they're all
Yeah, they're all settled.
There's everything that's constructed and done. That's what the assessments are.
okay, great.
It wouldn't be unless we start building additional houses. Good. And that will come into.
Right. Okay, great. Just one minute. Okay.
And for example, if the house is on Blight Drive, were to start construction and they have 3 levels of assessment. There's roof, they'll do supplements, we'll get supplements this year. So that's if they were breaking ground.
Okay.
I don't anticipate it.
Right.
Historically, we only come on annual estimate.
No, we do supplements, we'll bill on supplements too.
Were there any other ones? So that leaves the biggest question, which is, based on the town assessments, based on the county's tax data, you've got 2013, our total assessments were $200 million, and 2014 they were $218 million, which, if we leave the tax rate the same, would give us a net increase of approximately, what did you say it was, Jen, 13 some odd thousand? 292 versus 333, so it's like 20, what's the number? 28,000? I didn't do the tax.
Maybe like 40.
38,000. So the question is, what projects do we know we have coming down the pipe to where leaving real estate tax the same and getting the extra revenue makes sense versus, for those of you running for election, do you want to try to cut the real estate tax and not have to advertise and the back of the tax increase?
We have master plan, engineering fees that we should sort of factor into the budget for.
Yeah, originally when you look at this copy of the budget, based on some rough numbers from expenses, which Ryan and I spoke about in nauseam today, preliminarily there was about a $50,000 budget surplus. However, that number is not accurate in that there were some things that were not calculated properly with expenses, which is why we decided that we were going to deal with expenses today. That being said, like Rebecca said, one of the things that council has looked at in the last 18 months or so, and even longer prior to that, is the redevelopment of this particular piece of property that we're sitting on. And we have the flooding issues, we have Doris issue with the flooding in the parking lot, ice rink that she has in the wintertime, et cetera, et cetera. Unfortunately, those problems will not fix themselves. Unfortunately, those problems problems cost money to fix. And I think we all liked the renderings that we were given by Marshawn, by Howard, that they were showing us some other ideas for the parking and for the drainage problems, et cetera. But I think the rough estimate on that was somewhere in the neighborhood of $250.
The actual construction?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's closer to about half a million.
So,
That was an extreme guesstimate.
Yeah.
yeah, right. And I immediately discounted that quite a bit because it didn't have to be that expensive. But the main problem that we have to eliminate is the flooding issue and the ponding and the pooling of the water. So we know that's not going to be cheap. So my argument is we need to go ahead and fix it. We need to fix it sooner rather than later because we do continue to have the same problem with the same tenant. And for the appearance of being a good landlord, we should probably try to remedy it because she's not willing, doesn't seem willing to want to relocate her entrance to her building, to her shop. So my argument is that it's a good thing that property values are going up. I think our tax rate at 0.153 is fairly low for the services that the residents get. And I think that if you shop it down to the 0.139, which is what it would have to be to have quote no net increase, you're going to wind up having to cut off some expenses that we probably should incur as a town to continue to try to eliminate some of the problems that we have. That being said, on the expense side, which is hard to forecast all the revenues about talking about these things, there are some major expenses that aren't budgeted in the budget we're going to have to tackle. So my argument is to go forward with the idea of compounding this budget using the current tax rate of 0.153 and the added revenue of $39,000 or something like that.
When we go around the room and see what everybody else feels, increase?
It's not an increase.
Yes, it is an increase.
No, the tax rate is not increased. The effective tax is an increase in tax revenue. The effective tax to every homeowner is a slight increase, or every property owner is an increase in effective tax. This is not a tax increase.
It is considered legally a tax increase.
It's
Not a tax
But
rate.
it's not a tax rate increase, please. Thank you. Not a tax rate.
So I have to advertise it that it's a tax.
I understand that, but it's not a tax rate increase for the purposes of this work session.
So the yes would be for, no would be for,
Leaving the tax rate the same and incurring excess revenue.
no, for the,
Yeah, I need to rate the same.
Yeah, with projects we have coming up, and I would say we the rate the same.
I agree. I mean, we've got too many things we have to fix, and we're trying to bring more people into town, more businesses and that, and if we can't keep our own property in shape, it's not going to look good.
Mr. Joe?
Mr. Medius, okay. I think the last thing you want to do is make a cut and then have to make an increase later. I think you should leave it where it is. Okay.
I concur.
I concur as well. I looked at the 2014 assessment they just updated recently in Prince William County for homeowners, and the value is barely budged up this year, so it wouldn't really impact taxpayers at this time this year. Very marginal.
So there's our foundation answer there.
Just give over your own assessment. Not that it actually shows the vote, it doesn't have to appear.
I would,
Since you are running for mayor.
yeah, I would concur. I would actually concur with Steve's assessment.
I really was on here to that one. That's Kat, now that she showed up. Hi, Kat.
We just assigned you a bunch of stuff.
Yeah. You're like,
Congratulations.
You were voluntold.
Can you get on that, Jeff? How many years have we been toying with the number to try to choose?
Kat, you want the brief synopsis?
Well,
We just started.
So the brief synopsis,
I know
we just
last year-
started, and we were talking about the tax rate, the effective tax rate, the advertised tax rate for real estate. The argument that I proposed was that we have a lot of projects, number one, in the city, with property and fixing, parking and flooding and water problems. Plus there were other beautification issues, there's the maintenance of houses, et cetera. Long story short, the consensus is currently that we should move forward and
stated there with the post quasi increase. Because of all of
Let's call
the,
it a tax increase according to the new correct.
According to the state code.
yeah,
State code, code, whatever.
because of the issues we have, and they do need addressed.
Yeah, Jen, last year we toyed with the number to try to keep the tax rate the same so we didn't have to advertise the increase.
We did.
The year before, the same thing, correct?
I think the year before, we rendered an increase.
Well, keeping the rate
Rate the same,
but...
rendered an
okay.
increase. Then you go back any further than that, it was decreases.
Okay.
Because of the times. I can tell you, like you said, if you extrapolate that over the 597 parcels in town, here's an example, 6532 Wallacey. Their tax at 153 is 635. Their tax at 139 is 577. Your commercial's going to see a little bit more investment.
Next, Mr. Devine, Mr.
Well, it's a matter of going quickly line by line, or slowly, or at whatever speed we decide to go, and seeing if anybody has any questions for Brian, Renee, and Jen in regards to any of the actual proposed staff budget for 2015 as compared to expected or actuals through February 28th, and why there may or may not be a huge discrepancy in those numbers if we're not already aware of those. Some of them obviously has to do with timing and taxes, et cetera, which is why they're not left there because it's not due yet. But does anybody looking down page 1 and or page 2 have any items that are glaring at them and say, what's that all about?
Besides real estate delinquent area with zero, do you typically not have an issue with that, or?
We typically don't budget for delinquent real estate because you hope to collect it all up front.
Do we have an idea what our history is?
I defer to our professionals.
It's a pretty small.
Yeah, it's very small.
Right, so,
Like a couple
I mean,
percent.
like, yeah. I mean, our collection rate is like 97, 98%.
Cigarette tax, why is there $50,000 difference there?
That's quite a decrease.
Really?
We're seeing a decrease, so what we did was basically we took the average from the last 8 months, which is that one, and basically then that comes out to roughly 17,300 a month.
do we believe that's Walmart related?
There could be lots of things. Across the board, from what we've understood, a lot of people are experiencing the same kind of decrease. Less people are smoking.
tax seems to be higher in the summer.
Yeah, but we calculated that in the average because from last July, August, September. It does, but in the winter months, for some reason, because
Well, don't these collections also, aren't these collections typically a month behind? So while the actuals are through February for 119, that's actually probably only 7 months, not 8 months worth of revenues. So if you get to 119, 655 divided by 7 times 12, you actually come back up to 205, which is close to your 200th estimate, which is why it's a bit low.
Or wouldn't, if they're a month behind, wouldn't that factor into the start of the fiscal year?
July coming in August,
Yeah.
probably, or close to it.
So
It's not effectively always a month behind, but it does lag. You don't always appreciate the same. It depends on when they actually pay it. There's no rhyme or reason all the time.
but in this figure from last July,
You've got to take out
that's
the
from
numbers.
June,
Yeah.
May's.
Because when the money comes in, depending on when the money comes in July, in August, it actually goes back towards the prior fiscal year's revenue numbers before the audit. So the best formula to use here would be dividing the 119 divided by 7 times 12. And that gets you 205 as a change.
Yes.
The other factor too is our big three sellers, CVS, Food Line, and Sheetz. CVS had a corporate decision to phase out all cigarette sales by October. So obviously that's going to impact from now leading up to October. So there'll be a reduction there. Sheetz will pretty much be the only main point for people to purchase cigarettes. Food Line's not very heavy traffic most of the time, so it's very minimal. Although I'm sure their cigarette sales are higher than normal for a grocery store. But that's usually.
Can I ask you real quick, can I change the number then on the budget for the real estate tax to the 321?
Yeah, the projected, yes.
Okay, I'm gonna bump that up.
And for
Well, actually, I thought you said it was
333.
333,567, what you're reading. 333,567.
Oh, that's my factor on after exemptions. Hard exemptions, ones I know, like government.
Yeah, whatever you know the true real number should be based on the spreadsheet you got from the.
I'm gonna do 321.
We should have a big jump with QBE, right?
That little sliver. Oh, you mean actually getting.
Tax.
It's no longer
You're right,
Western County Schools.
County School.
And that went up, that gave us, another 2.7 million in assessment.
What about meals tax? Are we pulling in more than normal, and that's why we're going up 25K?
We are, typically, historically, it's been roughly $400,000 on average. And it seems to have gone up a little bit.
We're averaging about 40.
If you do the math, you're averaging just over 40,000. So the number is 482, 532 if you do divide it by times 12. So that being said, hopefully, depending on the development and stuff like that, we don't continue to use meals tax revenue across the street.
Well, Chick-fil-A looks and that should be.
Yeah, I'm not sure how that'll be a while. You won't really realize a lot of that.
Next year, but
Well, it potentially could be the end of this fiscal year,
Yeah.
fiscal year 15. But it would be toward the end. So
yeah,
that
we
would
wouldn't want to count that in this.
Yeah, we wouldn't want to budget for that, but I personally wouldn't shoot quite as high as 500. I think that's it's a slight jump between the 480, which is forecasted, but it's not huge. But I tend to err on the side of conservativeness on the revenue side and aggressiveness on the expensive side. But 482 to 500,000, it's not a huge jump, but
Asked Renee to give us our actual since we started. It seems like it's at 25 to 29,000 every year. So if you projected the 488, even at 25, you would be at 513. So I guess it depends on what we come into.
We're bringing roughly right now like 42,000 a month.
Okay.
So consistently, you're seeing 30 to 40,000
25 to 29,000.
a year.
Yeah, and I calculated it's 500 based on the rate we were on.
Based on that, I'm comfortable with 5, because that seems still a little conservative.
One thing, yeah, I'm looking, I was looking at numbers and I was getting your calculations. One of the things I was looking at here, and it does impact businesses, the more restaurants we do get in, obviously the more meals tax the town will collect. Now, as far as the money will eventually have to the point where we're going to an overage. Say we went Chick-fil-A or another family restaurant comes in, whether it be another Italian restaurant or a Mexican restaurant, any restaurant altogether. Is there any plans to phase out the meals tax or at least reduce it to
Not
going
at
forward?
this point in time. I mean, in addition to the streetscape we're still doing, there's yet another phase of streetscape that we're responsible for.
But it's to be completed by October this year?
No.
That's
This
just
is
saying on the restaurants that you don't know about the other
Yeah.
part of the streetscapes. It's still projected budget to pay for.
Right now, we are doing phase 1A. We still have phase 1B that still has to be, it's been engineered, no? Yes? No.
No,
That
it's
has
not
to be
been engineered.
engineered and, constructed. And that's everything in terms of the Herald property.
And now we have case.
Now, what's the ultimate cutoff time for the for the streetscape? When is it expected to be completed?
Well, it's been going on almost since I'm
It
here
will never
20
be
years ago.
completely done because
Started in the 90s.
Right, but, with as much as been done so far, it's been lack of maintenance, so, I mean, obviously.
we actually spent quite a bit of money, a year and a half ago, doing
Yeah.
maintenance. The sidewalk down there, we've done streets, we've done crosswalk improvements, there's been plenty of maintenance.
I'm talking about like overgrowth, just plant tree in general, grass, anything grown in, obviously during spring, summer, fall months, that kind of thing, just the maintenance of keeping it trim, clean. There's no upkeep on that for the most part that I've seen in the last year and a half.
On the town portions or the
I'm not
developer?
I'm not talking about the damage, but I'm just talking about the garden and the landscaping in general. There just has been as much upkeep with that as I would have expected there to be.
Right. So our landscaping bills that I saw last summer, they've done a pretty decent job of maintaining it.
Yeah.
No, we're getting ready to go.
We've also had the
Well, we had the
winter,
old,
we have.
right, we had the old folks, we had the new folks, but the old folks didn't. I remember
This is just,
for those all the time.
and again, this is just an observation from the last spring, summer, and fall, and just seeing it as I walk my dogs. It's just a personal observation. I didn't know it was the impact.
I don't think that's part of the budget work session.
I understand what it does relate to the sales tax.
Well, and as Rebecca said, there's no plan for this particular council, to my knowledge, anyone that's spoken up about trying to eliminate any part of the meals tax, because we needed to fund the general operating. I agree that when it was originally put in, it was stated for one reason by the council at that time, but unfortunately, I don't think anybody sitting here right now is on that council at that time. They all have-
I think I was.
No, it happened in '06, after the election in '06.
Oh,
Meals
okay.
tax was implemented. Believe me, the meals tax was my idea that I put into the budget plan.
Oh, no, I was thinking the streetscape when that was
Yeah.
started.
Streetscape, yeah, you might have been here
Yeah.
when that started back in the 90s.
Back in the day.
But the meals tax was something that I came up with in '04 and '05. It was implemented after I was out of office.
Ah, so we can blame you.
You blame me all you want, but I never said from the word go that it was going to be temporary. There's no tax. Taxes are temporary.
In every
There's nothing on record that ever said that it was going to be temporary.
almost every municipality that wants it also does the exact same thing.
Well, you have to have.
And almost every municipality now has one.
Right.
City has one, Warrenton has one.
Now, I've never heard any discussion of raising our meals tax, but until streets, no serious discussions. But until, phase 1B is done, which, there's not even the remotest opportunity of anyone honestly being able to say they could do away with that when that's the major revenue source for streetscape. It just can't.
So essentially sometime in the near future or distant future within
Minimum
foreseeable,
5 years
we
would
could
be my-
see some sort of impact, or if there's the soft cap that we have on the meals tax right now, is there a mental soft cap that the town has for how much revenue we can collect before we say, okay, we've got too much money?
No.
No, we never have too much money.
Yeah.
I've seen part of it.
There's never too much money until you're operating 100% with no debt. If you're not operating with any debt, then you don't have too much money.
I understand.
So, I mean, the fact of the matter is, the meals tax is as a financial professional, I don't personally see the meals tax going away at any time. And if future councils decide to try to do away with it, I'd love to see where they're going to cut expenses.
Yeah.
Where are you going to pull it from?
Because
Yeah.
you're going to have to cut services, you're going to cut. Believe me, I'll be the first one to say, you want to get rid of the meals tax, that's fine. That's $400,000, $500,000 in revenue. Guess what? Police department's the other line. You get people signed on to that one, I'll stand right there and champion it with you, but it's not going to happen. You're not going to get people in town, no matter what in the world happens in the newspapers, you're never going to get people in this town to agree to forego our own private security force, our own police department.
Our charter requires it.
Well,
Actually, we only require one.
our charter only requires
Right,
town
yeah.
charter. And quite frankly, that would be something very easy to get remedied through the General Assembly. However, then that opens up your charter to everything else. So, Josh, to answer your question, I don't see the meals tax going away. You keep changing before they go away.
Well, I'm just,
Get your expense study.
I mean, I'll go deep into it tonight, but I'm just going to say that you've got the meals tax, you've got the increase in real estate taxes expected. Yeah, business owners that people would love to go somewhere else. So then where's the revenue going to come from?
I don't know of any business owners and restaurants that actually, honestly, moving on. And if they are, I would dare say that they're probably not the large contributors to those tax revenue.
Well, even the large ones, in the very beginning, didn't see any decrease. Josie was quoted in the paper.
Yep, but it has an impact. McDonald's has an impact. That drive-through wrapped around them. And guess what? Chick-fil-A is coming. They don't seem to have a problem with 4% meal tax.
You have to realize that how does it compare
And
to
we
other
actually collect our rent.
It's actually pretty low.
Yeah, but
Our and compared to Manassas City.
I think Jen did a.
I'm not sure about Manassas Park.
Wellness tax compared to other jurisdictions, it's been a while.
Yeah.
We're on the low end. Most places started theirs at about 4%, and some of them have increased.
We,
Manassas City, I think it's 6.5.
Yeah.
at the time we started, 4 was the max that the state allowed. Keep in mind, there's something you have to keep in mind. Counties have to adopt a meals tax on referendum. Towns and cities do not. What counties like Prince William and Fairfax are doing are lobbying the General Assembly to move that restriction. So they can, if they have tried and tried, they've put it on the referendum 3 times and it keeps failing. But I'll tell you what, Prince William and Fairfax County are pretty powerful counties. It wouldn't surprise me someday in the near future if they get that restriction referendum removed and impose the tax themselves. At which time,
Then you did.
they would have to pay for, ours would pay Prince William County if we didn't have a tax in place.
And no, you're right, Jamie. There's a lot of stuff that you have to factor if you're going to do any sort of reduction in any tax whatsoever. But as I understand everyone's perspective on line for line items going through here, we'll need a much broader, more comprehensive understanding of where we're going and what we can do now, what we can do in the future. So.
Brian, the line 316, the charges for law enforcement and traffic control.
360, okay.
Precisely, whom are we? That's not pertaining to the event charges when we're charging the event coordinators for our law enforcement.
No.
Where's that revenue coming from? Out of curiosity.
That is citations in town. So that's what we.
Oh, so it's not the fines. It's different than the fines and forfeitures that come from the court.
Correct.
Those regular fines.
This is like anything like the decals or parking tickets and stuff. Basically, it's calculated off the average of getting 2 citations a month, and it's $35 a citation.
2 citations a month and $35 a citation. To me, that's 70 times 12 is what, 840?
Yeah, but you also
2.5 citations.
Yeah, you get like
Got it. And then the one thing I saw line, a couple lines down, the sale of salvage and surplus property. What did we sell this year?
Globes to Remax. They have the same street lights, and I had a surplus of globes, so we sold them.
What $10 gift or donation did we make?
I'm not sure that's
No,
what
we
we
got-
received.
We received
Oh,
that.
receipt.
receive
Okay.
that.
Yeah, we'll
We
see
don't
how much
anticipate
we
that
get.
again next year. So, just so you know.
Well, why should we budget any against it?
That's what I'm
I would actually exit that $500 out of there.
That's fine.
Move that.
I mean, it's good. It's good to be the recovered costs events. Now, that's that share you're shaking your head for Mexico. That's the stipend. Is that the stipend or is that the cost?
It's the stipend
And the cost of the officers. Okay.
You basically
Do we have an average cost per event for the officers?
we didn't get there.
Because I know the stipend is $500 per event, and I think there's only 6 events that require it.
Right.
So that's $3,000.
I think it's,
We can get that for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's gonna vary.
It's like 8 to
That's a lot
1,200.
than others.
Well, but we have a history of now 2 years, year and a half. We have a history now that we know which event pays what. So I honestly think that we can probably get almost a real number there. Almost a real number. I'm not saying 10,000 is wrong, but right now we can just narrow that number down based on historical officers' costs. We know $3,000 down in stipend. I think there's 6 events that require. I think there were 6, but doing that in my head right. I think I remember there being 6.
car show.
Christmas and
Yeah, there were 6. Yeah,
Oh, that's right, Christmas was new this year since we
Well, we talked about Christmas.
They were gonna do a parade.
Oh, that's right.
They were supposed to parade, and then
Weather.
weather.
Yeah.
But the odds are that it was, they were always going to do the parade. The problem that became the problem with Christmas here was after the weather happened to mix up with the parade, was that it was going to ride the tree, which, don't forget to include.
It's in.
Okay.
And it-
It's in?
No.
We're
Not
we
the
should buy
tree
it now.
No.
We should buy
I've got
this
the tree.
budget.
I've got the tree in factored into the budget. Actually,
Why not buy it now and find it in the spring? That's what we were talking about.
yeah. We just we need to make sure that we're going to get the thing to grow. That'd be my only concern. But
Add water.
Yeah, let's pull out the master plan that we're looking at and.
See where to put the tree.
Yeah, see if we can kind of ballpark a good place to
we can do that.
put the tree.
But yeah,
Doesn't end up getting concreted over.
Or rock and gravel.
It'll probably die of stress once we start construction.
That's that permeable concrete.
Semi-permeable pavement part here.
Can I bring something to your all's attention? One of the things we did notice, which is kind of reviewing today, we're up at application fees. This is line 313034 or 0304. It's application fees and inspection fees. One of the things is we're going through and looking at our building inspections and that process. One of the things that I'm noticing is that we're severely under on our fees for inspections. As we're putting together our program to kind of reorganize building inspections and how this happens, one of the things we should be doing is trying to basically, we might not be able to cover our costs completely because there is some, outside stuff that is our responsibility, but we need to get closer and closer to covering our costs. Right now, we're only covering about 26% of our costs.
So we need to adjust our fee schedule.
That's correct.
Right,
And
okay.
that's what I'm saying, is like, I
Well,
want to get
that's
it
closer
comparable.
than it worked for the last year.
Right, we
Yeah.
discussed that previously.
So the thought
That gets
is
dropped and
to mirror,
measured up, apparently.
the thought is to mirror Prince William counties.
It would be very, I don't know.
I don't think we had said,
Yeah.
I think we were trying to compare it to what we get charged.
Yeah, you would actually, well, basically with SCE coming in now, our costs have gone exorbitantly higher than what they were with Jim Howard. So
Correct.
we knew that going into it. And I knew there had been a directive, and I thought that staff was already looking at changing that and working with Sean on developing a better fee schedule. And I know that Dan Lyons had been talking to Sean about that. But I skipped over all of those numbers, the 25, the 10, the 6, and 25, because I think that really, unless you've already done it, that really needs to have, Marchand's really the one that has his finger on the pulse of businesses coming in, and the types of inspections that are going to be needed, et cetera. So I think all four of those numbers can be fine too. Not only, I don't know that we're going to get a fee schedule change between now and July 1st, but all those numbers can be fine too once a conversation and detailed analysis from Marchand, who did that last year for us. And, he was a little too conservative for my liking. The application fees was the only one that was down, the inspection fees and the planning and permits. He was pretty conservative on it, obviously exceeded both of those. So I had that started as getting information from Marchand. I actually asked him for a detailed analysis.
Yeah, we're just looking at the building inspections process, but we'll get with Marshall about that.
I don't know if anyone noticed, but Colorado reimbursement, it's new, that's new revenue, which just started in December, a new business revenue.
We actually have a number here that you can add in for that amount. We're estimating, projecting $4,500. That's based off of $370 a month reimbursement for each month.
Excuse my ignorance. Who's reimbursing us for borrowing?
The state.
They're giving us just a tax on it? It's part of the tax across the street?
No, it's,
Yeah, we'll rename it. It's called short-term rental tax, and
That's what I was going to say. It's got to be a tax. The state's not just giving us
it's a
free.
tax.
I know.
They can
It's a
pay the
tax.
state, and then we get a portion.
In our history since December has been 370 a month in January, February?
You're saying what, Ryan?
4,500.
Did anybody poll the research? I'm going to talk very so we can move on to that. Did anybody poll the research on assistance to localities, make sure the money is still there.
Yes, that's a firm number.
What is the transfer of cash reserves?
Factored in for the grant. We're, if things keep going the way they are, we'll only have one go around with the reimbursements. If the reimbursements come in, we might not even have to tap into that. But that's the number that's presented is based on Holly's anticipated numbers.
It's the gap between the expense and the income.
20%.
It's the gap between our expected expenses and the actual number.
Yeah, there could be more than 20.
Right.
Just for those of you who don't know, in our streetscape project, we anticipate some VDOT fees that we also pay 20% of those fees. So that's what we're talking about here. Is the gap between the two plus.
No way that boost grant's going to happen before fiscal year 10, Jim?
My ad date's August, so no. Well, it just
We
took
could've
me got a
towed the
long
thing
time to
out of
get
town by now.
going.
Why would you want to do that?
Down the road. I'm just saying, we could have towed it out of town by now. You know how hard it would be to tow that thing right now?
Not gonna.
Go on, inch an hour.
I'll shave off
You're
some-
missing the bad attempt at humor.
Hey, you should put wheels on it and make it the Tron.
Oh,
Very
there we go.
Drive it up and down the street.
You can fit maybe 10. That's a good attempt.
For employee expenses, we cut share. Right now.
See, that was a good attempt.
Yeah, I always love your humor. Use that and forget your phone. So revenue was pretty quick and simple. I would suggest, Jim, what's the new, you've been plugging in with, your new expected revenue using the tax, et cetera.
And the bottom line is 73,
2.7, what?
No.
2 million.
Oh, you need the bottom line,
Yeah,
the revenue.
I'm like 73, 3, 4, that's 73,000? How could it up 2 million revenue?
Okay, 2,756,768. 2,756,768. I can print one of these out.
And then we're gonna work on getting better figures from Sean for that. And we're gonna confirm, try to firm up the number on the revenue for the defense reimbursements. Yes.
But I don't know if we're explaining that this million.
Oh, that was actually, accounting adjustments where we had,
Like the tax.
yeah, bookkeeping,
389.
discounts and old, accounts receivable on forever and clean that up,
So
so.
that's just a one-time thing.
Yeah, yeah. And actually, we need to shoot that anyway, so that's not really relevant.
It's not, yeah, it's not really relevant.
And Jay already knows this, but just so you all know, though I say 8.4% on tax revenue increase from increased assessments, what we're allowed to do is back out anything that was a new tax this year case.
Improvements.
Half of Sherwood Forest. I can back that out, so when we do advertise the tax increase, it's not going to be that high. It's going to be a lot lower. Because once we back out Pace, the firehouse, all of Sherwood, I get to pull those numbers off the assessments
And then compare them to last year's.
and then render the tax increase that we advertised.
So it's actually small.
So it's small, yeah, it's small.
Wonderful.
Doesn't matter, you're not running over election, you know.
I live here and pay taxes. It looks better to me.
We can explain it, but they're the ones that the ones running for election are the ones that have to explain why they go along with it. You know,
No, there was
just have to live with it.
When the old council. Yes, I wrote down and they agreed with this. It's right here and it's recorded that everybody running for re-election agreed with it. No one spoke up against it. The only negative thing we had on the revenue side of it was the meals tax that Josh spoke about. Anybody, I mean, since this was relatively short, does anybody have any real quick, big ticket items that you want to ask about? Or should we take our newfound freedom for the evening and go home and focus on expenses for next week?
When are we going to meet?
Jim, can you clarify one thing for me? This is just understanding the page 1, item 312, the motor vehicle licenses. Are those just the decals for the cars? Okay. Nothing else? Does that include motorcycles?
Decals have to be on a motor.
Okay. And the other question I had was concerning here, page 1. 312 again, communication, sales, and use tax. Does that also include the files that's rendered through Sherwood Forest or any of the other services that were recently implemented in the market in the last couple of years? Or is it strictly Comcast and other telemarketing agencies or Verizon?
It's actually strictly telecom.
Strictly telecom.
And the state took over administering that tax 2 years ago. We used to get it from each provider, and now the council.
It won't be one sum.
Yes.
Okay.
Right.
That's good.
Here's a handling fee. Someone has to go with this
So when do we want to do this next?
one. Next week. I think we should move rather as quickly as we can to get to the hard ones. Right now, it's easy. It's easy discussion for the most part. It's when it gets to the hard 4 or 5 that we're going to argue about. Yeah, it's going to be action meetings a long time. I would think that, honestly, same time, same channel.
19th at 6:30?
Yeah, is there any way to move it to Thursday? Tuesday?
18th?
Next Tuesday?
Yeah, I mean, Tuesday the 18th.
Tuesday, Thursday.
I mean, if you want to make it easier for Kat, since she comes, she's got, I think, the largest commute coming here at 5 o'clock versus the rest of us.
No, I leave at 5:30.
That's what I'm saying. You go to 5 or 5:30. You guys want to just move it to 7? Or you guys want to keep it at 6:30 and let Kat show up 6:45?
7, I'm fine. I'm coming from Rockville.
We'll be here not long, we're expensive.
Yeah.
7?
7's fine.
Was that,
If you go that first time.
Yeah, because Wednesday and Thursday next week, the time I was
Tuesday
supposed
18th at 7?
Yeah.
you could be,
Oh, I know.
The bumping.
the pumping.
And there'll probably be some changes.
be some major changes.
Yeah, there will be major changes. There will be major changes.
There will not probably be changes. There will be major changes. I would the expenses that are already indicated.
Right. So,
Number one,
we'll
that
probably
makes you
get-
care is the legal expenses.
they need to.
Because the legal expenses, Brian and I talked about it today, is seriously atrocious. The legal expenses are drastically low from what they actually will be probably for the rest of this year or next year. We need to budget for realistically. Is reflecting currently here $80,000.
I was hoping for more civil here. That's what I was going for, but Jake's right. So, wishful thinking, man.
Some of the people that are causing problems are sitting at the tax are not going to be causing problems with the auditors. There's nothing to do with it.
I hope that nobody wants to cause problems.
I know, but keep your reluctance. So if you have any questions or anything expense-wise that you want to clarify or any questions that you get, I mean, we always say this in other events, but prior to Tuesday is better than Tuesday. So if you would email staff and myself and Renee, if you want a hard copy of anybody else, so it's official for you, township, that's fine. But if anybody actually does their homework, we can out on Tuesday and has any questions or has any suggestions.
Also, Planning Commission is doing the CIP, and we are, putting together the 5-year as well. So any thoughts and suggestions, please email me by. Well, for us, so.
It's amazing. It's amazing how that title works.
Yeah, isn't it?
What were some of the things we talked about today, Brian? The taxes, the legal was one.
Yeah, legal.
Salary expenses was another.
Yeah.
Whether or not we're going to incorporate a 6% overall pay raise.
That's like worst case scenario.
I mean, Joe's the first case.
Well, what I'm just trying to say is that I know that from last year, based upon when I was coming into last year's budget statutes, you all had talked, maybe not everybody agreed, but the council had talked about including a raise. And so wasn't able to do it because we had to really focus on the streetscape project and stuff. So it's one of those things you didn't get done last year. So what we looked at is we're basically looking at what's being proposed currently is a 3% COLA with a 3% merit. That doesn't mean that you're getting a 3% merit. That would mean, depending upon the review, you can get up to a 3%. So, but, to err on the side that that's the direction. I mean, you don't have to play with it. It's your, at the end of the day, it's your own budget. But it's the, to kind of work, for the staff, is I'd like to see something we can work with it and make it happen. That I just rather err with the idea that it's in there as opposed to it's not in there. We don't have to move it forward with anything.
The other thing that Brian and I talked about was the benefits package that we have here. And Jennifer and I talked about it. And I'm actually starting looking into comparisons of local municipalities' benefits packages compared to ours. Ours is extremely generous. Certain benefit for our staffers. However, it's expensive to us. So one of the things I said to Brian was, we can look at two different things. Trim the benefits and give the pay raise, or trim the pay raise and keep the benefits. That's something that I want to look at and see what the savings might be. I'm not saying it has to happen, I'm just saying I'd like to see what sort of benefit and cost savings goes to the you can be out of walk. I know you were in agreement.
Our police salaries are impacted.
I'm not talking about salaries. I'm talking about benefits.
You're saying
So we can cut one or trim the other, or trim one or trim the other. I think a 6% pay raise is quite honestly a slap in the face to the taxpayers. I'm sorry for the staff sitting in bed. Sorry.
they got nothing this year.
They got, I believe there was a missing process. I believe there was a stipend or bonus, whatever you want to call it. It was an excess to the actual salary. There's plenty of overtime that can be made, et cetera. And Jennifer and I are friends, and we chat about this all the time. I mean, it was about how I feel about how staff should be compensated. I don't necessarily think that they don't do a good job. I just am curious about the propriety, how proper it is to continue to increase salaries when you've got residents complaining about the tax, complaining about services, complaining about what people are doing. So, it's, do you take the money and focus it on the areas that residents are concerned about? Give it back to your staff, and you contact them. Again, I think 6% is way too high. I'm not saying I'm not opposed to something small or something, COLA or what have you, but I think 6% in my opinion is too much. We have other areas that we can focus the expense on.
Now, is the anticipated cost of healthcare going up so much that you could do marginal merit increase, instead of the 6, you could perhaps do maybe a 3, or would be some sort of middle ground that could be found between them? Because I do understand that if you do impact healthcare, which is a big thing in this case, and it's soft subject for a lot of people, you go into deductibles, co-pays. I was actually very fortunate to switch over to newer health insurance plan this month. And if I had my co-pay and deductibles for my wife going through pregnancy, it would have been a lot higher. So I know the impact it can have on families and having budget for it as well.
I think that's part of the point you're trying to make when you talk about
I understand. And I do think 6% is very, very generous. However, I understand that there has to be some sort of merit increase for the town staff that you deserve the merit increase. But I don't know, what do you think about 3% as a preliminary number to work with?
Well, the 3% is the cost of living. It's
You
the,
propose a 3 and 3.
Yeah.
For total.
right, oh, I know. The 3% is, flat 3 is the cost of living. Anything above and beyond that would be merit-based. Could be 4%, like the 1% merit-based, or 2%, depending on,
Is that the
Job
true COLA
performance.
this year?
Yeah,
3 flat?
yeah. That's what I was, is there?
and then,
That's the government.
yeah,
That's the true COLA.
No,
Yeah, that's what he's proposing, that's not true COLA.
Right.
there's also
You gotta
the
look at federal
the
statute.
town's cost for health insurance, I believe, went down this year, correct?
Correct. We're down 5.3%.
I'm not saying that the cost of the insurance is going to cat. I'm saying that our benefit package is extremely generous.
I understand that.
When you look at what we pay versus
Sure.
what other municipalities pay. I understand the cost. Yeah, I understand what you're saying, that the cost, the overall cost went down. I'm suggesting that the overall cost would go down further.
Well, we've already looked at life insurance and we figured out we could save $900 on that, and it's actually $10,000.
Didn't we get a cost comparison for our average employees, or was that a couple years ago?
It's been a while.
Yeah,
You get a salary comparison?
salary
Not a cost
comparison.
comparison, but salary.
Salary comparison. You know, the average sort of starting was like in the 30s for our officers, where Prince William was in the 40s.
Yeah, there's some factors there. You got college degrees or degrees.
No, correct.
We're pretty close on officers' starting salaries, especially coming out of the academy.
And then I'm also, even though it's a small benefit, I'm not going to say that it's a large benefit, but I'm pretty sure that Prince William County doesn't have driving service for the officers. And I know that Prince William County doesn't have a vehicle for every one of the officers. And I know that Prince William County doesn't allow their officers to take home their vehicles, only not do that, not discretion, so you've got to look at the big picture, to use Cat's terminology. There's true benefits, and then there's salary, and there's health benefits. While it may not cost us a ton of money to provide dry cleaning for our officers, we don't provide any dry cleaning for Jen and Sherry and Renee and Ryan. You know, we don't provide a vehicle for them to drive back and forth to work on the days that they're working. We don't provide them a vehicle to drive when they have to go to training somewhere, et cetera. Instead, we have to pay the mileage reimbursements, et cetera. So you have to look at the true factor. And look at, and one of those costs that is impossible to price is the fact that currently right now, as it sits, every single officer has their own car that they're responsible for, that they need to drive and set up the way they want to set it up with, and they don't have to worry about, you know, smelling somebody else's smelly feet or whatever in the car because they have to share a car with Officer Bob, you know. But that's a benefit that Jim and Gray have paid for year after year after year after year. And that's a benefit that is, to, you know, what's the MasterCard working prices.
Yeah. I guess my point is that I don't think we've done this in several years to see where we stand, you know.
Well, I would also argue, David, given certain recent scenarios with the majority of some of our staff and some of our departments, I'm not sure merit-based rates is merit-based. To be 100% frank and honest. You know, so.
That's where merit comes in, it's on an individual
Well,
basis.
sure, that's where it comes in, but then, you know, since the deciding factors there would be the council, as far as that's concerned, maybe we work with a truer number than a 6% across the board.
Oh, I
And
understand.
maybe we figure that out
There are some out there
now.
busting the rear, there's others that are hiding.
Maybe current council figures that out now and enacts it effective X. That way you have a true number in your budget versus one of the things that has always happened whenever raises were done is it was put in the next year's budget, but then they were never finalized till August, September, and then they were all paid retroactively, et cetera. Well, maybe there's a way to be more proactive on that, and let the current council, who knows all of the circumstances surrounding everything that can't be made public at this point in time, let the current council make the decisions on merit-based raise. You can do a COLA across the board of whatever true COLA may be, or half of what true COLA may be, or whatever we decide. But the merit-based portion, you know, I would rather, to be honest, from a fiscally responsible standpoint, in that I still currently answer to the people that put me in this office, I'd much rather help make that decision.
Right.
And 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 new bodies on July 1st who have no idea what in the world's going on in the last 4 months in our departments.
Well, and before we really start,
No, we need to make sure we have a full staff.
and before we really start looking into raises, we need to look at CIP items from last year that we still haven't done.
Exactly.
That we need to put in. So that, yes, I would really like to see our employees get a cost of living raise. I just don't see with things we have coming down the pike and that we were supposed to get done this year and didn't. I just don't see with as tight as the budget is, I just don't see where we're going to be able to do anything more than our cost of living if we can even do that. So keep that in mind when we're talking expenses and adding things and taking them out of the budget. So just my 2 cents.
Any other thoughts around the table? Okay. So, look for the 18th.
I got one thing going. To save some money in this office, I'm just thinking, why don't everybody take each with them and stuff instead of getting out more of them?
The numbers are going to change.
Yeah, the numbers are going to change anyway. And I always go on the one that.
You said you're not sure that number going to change.
The expenses are changing, for the next one.
And there's still a bunch of sandwiches and stuff.
Because this is last year's budget.
Yes,
Yeah, you're right. You're right. Well, I'm just trying to save it, don't I?
When you talk to Michelle, talking to these business days,
Right. I figured that was all back based on true real money. He knows what projects he's talking to potential landowners about.